Welcome everyone to Screams After Midnight. I am Peter, and joining me as always is Tim.
Hello.
This is a horror movie podcast, and normally we get together and talk about a movie. We watch a movie, we sit and discuss it for an absurd amount of time and see where we land on it. But today we're not doing that. Today we are finally in July of 2025 doing our top 10 horror movies of 2024. We spent a lot of time this year catching up on everything we missed last year because Tim was at home with the kids and couldn't go to the theater. But we've done it. We're finally here. It's time to actually decide what the best movies of the year were. So we had a good time making this list, this top 10. We also did a top 5 or bottom 5 worst horror movies of 2024 as well. So for patrons and YouTube members, you'll get access to the making of those lists. That's kind of the bonus for this episode, is you can actually see us debate and come up with it and make it. But here we are going to reveal what that top 10 is, and then as a little bonus give you the bottom 5 as well after the fact. So there's not too much left to say. There wasn't too many disagreements on this particular one, so we can pretty much just get into it and praise some of the movies of last year.
Well, I feel like you can't say that because then no one's gonna want to listen to the behind the scenes. Like, you gotta tell them that there's like all this infighting and debating and hair scratching until that we really had to drag it out.
Hair scratching? You mean hair pulling?
Yeah, I guess that would be more apropos.
Yeah, also good luck pulling my hair. Good luck indeed.
It might be easier to scratch it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think scratching and hair pulling is something that's often said about when two people who can't fight are fighting. But you kind of combined them, so here we are. So we'll get into it. I don't think there's any that fall into this, but just in case anyone says, hey, one of these movies is a 2023 movie, that probably means it didn't come out and get released to the West or the US and the UK until 2023, and we'd rather not exclude things because of that. I don't actually think any of them do fall into that category, but just in case, that is kind of the general rule, is that they're still eligible for the sake of giving movies the praise that they should deserve. So we'll get into it. It's nice and simple. We'll start with number 10. So we're doing the top 10 horror movies of 2024 as discussed and decided by us. Us being Screams After Midnight. That is our shipping name. All right. Number 10 is Maxine.
Ooh. Yeah, there was a lot of excitement going into this one, at least for me, because I just absolutely love the I'm not sure if there's like an official name for it, but the Ti West Mia Goth trilogy. I don't know if people just call it the Maxine trilogy or how it works, but I was a big fan of the first 2 entries, and this is one we've been looking forward to for quite a bit, and it's definitely not a bad movie, but it's a bit lower on the list because at least for me, it didn't really live up to all the expectations I had. But we kind of said before, it still has some pretty good vibes, some great performances, so there's definitely enough there to like about it. But yeah, that's why it's a bit lower on the list. But
yeah, it's weird I'll let you talk about this one first because I liked it a bit more than you did. So it's weird we're starting this top 10 with you saying that you were slightly disappointed in the movie.
I just jumped in there. I'm sorry.
That's all right. No, I was happy to let you speak. It wasn't until you started getting to the negativity that I'm like, yeah, this is weird. Why did I let you go first?
I'm not trying to be negative. I'm just yeah.
I still like Maxine a lot. I do think it's the weakest of the trilogy, and I think the previous entries in the trilogy both rated higher on their respective top 10s for the year. But I do love the vibes of this movie. I love the setting of having scenes on the Universal backlot and just how sort of ingrained it is to the movie industry. I think Mia Goth is very entertaining as Maxine, and that's still true in this third one. I liked how some of the themes of this one are about her past catching up to her, which obviously brings in the previous movie and all that stuff, which is also pretty neat. Honestly, my only real critique for me, because I liked all the horror stuff, the Giallo inspired stuff with the killer. I loved how different that felt to the killings in X. And obviously Pearl was its own completely different beast anyway. But honestly, it's just really the last like 10, 15 minutes are a bit just okay. They're definitely weaker than the rest of the movie. And that's where for me it's definitely is at the bottom of the top 10. But I do think it still belongs there. And we had a few other things that just missed. We'll say what the honorable mentions are at the end, but it beat out just a couple of things, and ultimately we thought it was more interesting to have Maxine here to represent something a little bit different and kind of like give the conclusion to the trilogy a little bit of a shout out, because some people still quite like this one, but it's definitely the most divisive of the three. Seemingly, like a lot of people are a bit more down on it than the first two.
I do think I actually need to watch this one again, because I was one of those people that are a bit more down on it. Again, I didn't hate it, but maybe some of it was just expectations from the first two movies, and maybe if I will watch it again at some point. I just haven't gotten around to it yet, but maybe knowing, having the expectations of knowing what the movie is, maybe I'll enjoy it more in a second go around.
Yeah, and presumably like you'll just watch it when you watch the other two, because it'll now be like a trilogy rewatch as opposed to just an individual standalone thing.
That'll be fun. Yeah, I mean, maybe I'll do that for once October hits. That might be a good rewatch. All three.
Yeah, well, that's number 10. Number 9 is Immaculate. And this is the Sydney Sweeney movie, which I don't think it's a spoiler to say at least a bit more what the premise is, especially since some time has passed, but also I don't know how much the trailers revealed about all this, but given the title, there's a pregnancy involved, okay? Let's just say that. I think we can say that quite safely now. It's so wild because this and another movie are very similar, and they were both kind of similar in quality overall. But we went with Immaculate of the two to make the top 10, because as much as they're very comparable in a lot of ways, even in quality at certain points, and they have different strengths, I think Immaculate, ultimately, the final 20 minutes leaves such a strong impression. And the movie, I think, starts off, I think the first 20-30 minutes of Immaculate are just okay, and they're actually kind of generic. But once it hits the end of Act 1, where the premise really kicks in, and we go, oh, this is what this movie's actually about now, then it starts to pick up steam, and the final 20 minutes and the ending are pretty unforgettable. Like the final scene, both from a performance perspective and just what the movie does to end on, like what it chooses to end on, is very memorable. It's ballsy, and it's clearly got a statement to make. It's saying something about current politics, and particularly subjects related to pregnancy, and it's very staunch in those opinions, and it feels kind of punk rock as a result, which I know sounds weird because we're talking a movie about a nun, but at the end it's kind of punk rock, and you're kind of like, F yeah, screw the man, basically. So this stuck out to me quite a bit, even though it's not perfect, and I do think it starts off a bit slow. Once it gets going, it goes to some pretty cool places.
Oh no, absolutely, and I think the ending, I guess like the whole last act or so, but I mean, especially those last couple of minutes are really what puts it over the edge, and I think help put it on the list. It is interesting because and it's not like I hated the movie or whatever at the start, but you kind of get a sense of what it is, and I feel like or at least what you think it's going to be. And I feel like, it's not often that a movie, especially for people like us, have just, seen so many that, a lot of times it's like, okay, I feel like I know what I'm getting into. And it really does kind of, throw you a little bit for a curve. And then once it really gets going, it gets going. And it's very good at building up to the point where, the ending is just so memorable and stuff. But I was happy to have it on the list here.
Number 8 is Heretic. So this is the Hugh Grant Again, we're dealing with religious figures because two Mormons, two Mormon girls come to the door. Sophie Thatcher playing one of them, and he sort of lures them inside. And the trailer kind of reveals that it's a lure. It's not just like he invites them in; like he kind of tricks them into coming inside. And that's kind of where I can't really say a whole lot more. This is a weird one to talk about without spoiling it, but obviously this is a top 10, so people might be looking for recommendations. So I think it's wise to not. But let's just say the first like 2/3 of this movie, we said this when we were building the list, that this is kind of an inverse of Immaculate, where the last chunk is maybe, not bad. It's actually still pretty decent, but it's definitely not as special as the first like half or 2/3 are, because it's so unique in building tension where it's just really, it's all almost entirely conversation. It's almost entirely built through just this guy talking to these two young women, and the way he's like saying things and insinuating things, it just keeps building and building. But again, there's a lot of commentary kind of weaved in there, and it's like you'll sort of like leave it remembering specific scenes for a long time, because it does a good job of bringing up these interesting ideas and having just a very compelling performance from Hugh Grant, who's an actor who I don't really have a particularly strong opinion of, because he tends to be in things that I don't care about. But this was such a different turn for him that was very creepy and very commanding, and he was always kind of stealing the scene whenever he was there, which is a lot of the movie, thankfully.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the big reasons why it makes the list, because Hugh Grant's performance was just so captivating, and I mean, yeah, I agree. Like, I didn't have much of a opinion on him. Like, I didn't hate him, but it tends not to do the kind of movies that I'm like as interested in. But yeah, he was just so good at a villain, to the point where it's like, I guess you like it, I don't know if he's just gonna get typecast from now on, but he could certainly like play like very malicious characters. But I mean, that might even be underselling it, because it's not like he's like a mustache twirling, evil kind of guy. Like, he's playing a very specific type of character, who speaks to people in a very specific way, which just really makes it fascinating. And yeah, I agree with what you said. Like, the ending is maybe a slightly weaker part. Like, again, not bad, but that first, whatever hour or so where you're just learning more about his intentions and trying to figure out what he's doing, why he's there, and just listening to his like constant like monologues and stuff. It's all so good. And yeah, really hinges on his performance, which, I don't know if you have a weaker actor in there or someone that's not given it as much gravitas. I don't know if it makes the list,
Yeah, no, I think I agree with that, and I think the writing is also very strong. And it's so weird because the people who made this movie made some right stinkers before it, and it's bizarre how high the quality is. But hey, it's pretty great.
And I don't want to discount the other two leads. Like, they're very good as well.
Not at all. Yeah, they're good. And even they have some surprising moments as the movie goes on, because ultimately it is kind of their story. So, no, very good. All right, number 7 is Nosferatu.
So this was one that I was a bit more passionate about than you. And I kind of feel like I'm a bit more against the general opinion of a lot of people, because it seems like most people I talked to didn't hate it, but they're like, oh yeah, it was just okay or whatever. But I was just so in love with this movie. I just like thought it looked so gorgeous. I loved the music, the performances. Like, to me, it was just firing on all cylinders. So yeah, this was one that really stood out to me, and I've pretty much loved everything Eggers has done so far. I mean, the Northman was just like, okay, that wasn't like my favorite, but like it'd be really hard to rank his stuff, because I'm just such a big fan of his style and stuff. But this one really, really hit for me. I just like felt so sucked into the world that he created, which admittedly, like it's doing Dracula, which is like like one of my favorite stories ever. So I'm kind of predisposed to like a lot of the stuff. But
Excuse me, Count Orlok. I think you'll find.
I mean, obviously, yeah, but yeah. But yeah, I really dug this one, and it's I don't know, maybe I'm complaining about it too much, like because it's not like a movie. It seems like a movie that people hate. Like I know like some people like hate it, but I'm just kind of surprised that it didn't get like a bigger like reception than some people. But maybe I'm just the weirdo that like over loves it too much.
Yeah, I mean, I liked it, and I think there's some great cinematography in there, but like, one of my things is that I love the Herzog version from 1979, and it's so grungy. So as much as like there's great cinematography in this, like there's like a moment, when the Harker, again, he's not called that in this, but when the Harker character is like on his way to Dracula's castle, and there's just this like the carriage coming through the mist and the trees. Like there's some gorgeous shots, but it almost just feels too clean to me sometimes, and like the cast, or at least the two leads, right? And I'm thinking, Jonathan and Mina. Again, it's not Mina, but like, those are the Dracula names. Like Lily Rose Depp and Nicholas Hoult are just such like modern young, like actors that they just, I just don't buy them in this like grimier time period. They just feel like, it's kind of like when you watch The Revenant and it's like it's pretty good, but you can tell Leonardo DiCaprio just really wants an Oscar. And that's kind of how I felt watching those two, and like she's like really trying to act, and I there was this slight disconnect from it where I could never quite love it. But you were a lot more passionate about this, and you kind of fought for it, because for me it probably would have been more at the bottom of the 10, or maybe even just outside of the 10. But you mentioned this like very early on in the nominating movie, so it was clearly going to be one you were fighting for a bit higher. So it ended up landing it at 7, but this was a Tim passion lifting the ship kind of thing, in the same way that I kind of got Maxine at number 10, because otherwise it probably wouldn't have quite made it if I wasn't more into it. But yeah.
And I think those are fair arguments too. Like I like Werner Herzog's Nosferatu quite a bit as well, and I can definitely see there's like a different kind of atmosphere or look between the two, but I mean they both work for me. But I totally get what you're saying. It's just I don't know, it works so well for me. That's another one that I haven't rewatched yet, but I'm looking forward to checking out again.
So that's Nosferatu at number 7. Number 6 is Oddity, which is an Irish movie that came out last year. This was one that we did not too long ago on the show, and it's kind of an odd one to explain, but we'll just say that a woman is murdered, and a year later, her blind twin sister, who happens to be a medium, is trying to like get to the truth about what happened to her sister, and creepy stuff ensues. Yeah, I don't know. How do you go? You try and take this.
Yeah, you really don't want to give too much away, but this was such I mean, it feels weird to say it because it's part of the title, but such like an odd little film. But I love like how many different things are going on in the movie and how it just kind of keeps adding on stuff. And I apologize, I forget the name of the director, but I think he just does such a good job of like setting a room where like you get to know the space, because he did this with his other movie, which I always forget the name of, began with a C, I think. Caveat, was that it?
Caveat, that's correct. I was
Caveat,
like,
okay.
Does he want me to come in and rescue him, or do I sit here and watch him suffer?
But yeah, like he just does such a good job of like setting up where things are, and then like just the way it like foreshadows like, oh, something creepy is gonna happen there. And then this movie, again, it's just putting all this stuff together, which again seems a little odd at first, but I feel like comes together really well. So yeah, I mean, this I don't know if this is a one that might have slipped by some people. I think it had like a very small theatrical run, but it's mostly like a Shudder movie now, I believe. But yeah, if you haven't watched this, I highly recommend checking it out.
Yeah, it definitely has a very unique story and structure. Like, I think when it starts, you think it's going to be one thing, and then it like that's like a little prologue, but then it kind of quickly turns into something else. And then you're still kind of questioning, what is this movie? Is this just like a ghost movie? Is it just a demon movie? Is it just a this movie, a that movie? And honestly, it kind of keeps you on your toes a little bit. And by the time you get to the end, like, it's done such a decent job of establishing like the players in the story, their roles, their kind of their alignments, if you will, that by the end, it kind of like all plays out in a way where all the dominoes fall, and it feels like, oh, they were set up really well to all fall in place by the end. And a lot of it is execution, because I get really bored of like just generic supernatural stuff, and I can get very critical of it. In fact, just wait until we get to our worst 5 of the year at the end of this, because some of those are going to fall into that category. But so much of this is execution, where I think the director here just really knows how to milk something in such a way that it's building suspense for when that thing in the background is finally going to move, right? To just sum it up in a sentence. And I do really appreciate what you said about the sense of geography, because I think that sense of space is a big part of it, and it really makes use of this house that it spends like 70 to 80% of the movie in.
Yeah, I think you could very easily see like the bad version of this, like if some hack studio just shit out like a generic thing or whatever with whatever crappy director. Like, you can see them just leaning into those supernatural elements and having like these like shitty jump scares or whatever, because like there are like some jump scares and stuff in this, but yeah, again, like you said, like it's executed so well, and like the director takes his time and knows how to play with you and set up these like expectations and these surprises and stuff. So I'm like, I'm very it's kind of funny because like overall it's not, I mean, obviously it's in the middle of the list, so it's not like, oh, it's not like the best movie of the year or whatever, but I feel like I'm so passionate about it because I'm just like, on a technical level, I'm like very impressed with like how the director like executes this stuff, and so I'm very interested to see like what they do next.
Yeah, it's recommended. It's definitely like, out of this list, it feels like the one that we're kind of like maybe introducing to people the most, outside of maybe number one, which we'll get to later.
Yeah.
But like, whereas a lot of these other things, I think this is stuff that people who are remotely into horror will have definitely heard of a lot of the other ones. But this is one that I think we're recommending that people wouldn't have caught. So that's number 6 was Oddity. Number 5 is Longlegs, which is the Osgood Perkins movie starring Nicolas Cage and Micah Monroe, about an FBI agent who's trying to track down the serial killer, and that serial killer is Nicolas Cage, and he is he is eccentric. That's the word I would maybe use to be vague as possible. This is another one where Osgood Perkins, I think, is just a really strong director when it comes to tone and atmosphere, and this is no different, where just scenes of characters standing in a street looking down like either end just have such mood and tone to them. The way he plays with light and dark. Honestly, like, it's at number 5, and I think it deserves to be at number 5. And even then, this is still slightly below what my expectations were in terms of like how excited I was going into it. Like, I thought it was great, but I thought it might have been amazing going into it. And it's kind of like, and it's because the story takes some really weird turns, but I kind of appreciate, but I also think are a little weird in a sense where I'm not sure how much I like these weird turns like near the end. So, but hey, how are you feeling about it?
Well, I mean, it's interesting because I was kind of the opposite, because I really haven't liked his previous films. I mean, I think we had some pretty big disagreements on, his other 2 big, releases before this, but I was kind of shocked that I love this movie. I agree, there's a lot of weird stuff in it, but that was really working for me. Like, I don't know, maybe it's just something about the story of this one or the performers in it, but it was just another one where it was really hitting for me. Yeah, it's weird, but in that kind of like crazy kooky way, especially a crazy Nicolas Cage way, that I admire. And then there's just such a relentless tone and or like atmosphere to it that it really got me sucked in. So I was surprised because I was intrigued by it, but knowing I haven't always liked the stuff the director does, I was a little, more trepidatious going in. But I ended up really, really liking this one.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's just the execution for me is still solid when it comes to Perkins' style. Like, there's a sequence early on where the main character is just kind of alone at her house, but her house is this very secluded sort of cabin style home, and like just the way that there might be something outside, and the way the tension's built up over the course of that sequence is just a perfect example of how good the direction is. So, and there's a lot of memorable scenes from it as well. So definitely, absolutely worth seeing if you're into horror. But I think it's probably a little divisive in where it goes with its story. And even I'm still trying to decide exactly how I feel about some of it. But certainly, like, I think it's one that I'll return to and might get better with more viewings, just purely because, like, going into it knowing where it's going and being able to take it on its terms, I think it's going to help a lot. But even with these caveats, it's still number 5, and I still felt quite strongly that it should probably be up here above these other movies that we've already mentioned. So that should say everything needs to be said. So that's number 5. Number 4 is The Substance, which is the Oscar nominated, and also, did it win some things? It may have won some things as well, actually, now I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, I feel like it got something. Was it maybe was like makeup or something?
It was months ago. I can't remember. But yeah, The Substance is set in this. I don't even know if it's maybe the future technically, but it's there's this substance which will allow someone to have a younger version of themselves again, and it's kind of exploring this idea of this aging actress, and well, it's not even an actress. She's like a fitness guru who does like exercise tapes and things like that. She's a model, effectively, and she gets to have a younger version of herself. So it's Demi Moore, and Margaret Qualley plays the young version, but it becomes this kind of fight between them of who gets to be in charge and this idea. So there's a lot of satire there. It feels like something that Paul Verhoeven might have made if he'd been given this idea at some point, but he didn't. But you're probably saying to yourself, well, this sounds interesting and maybe even verging on science fiction, but what makes it a horror movie? Let's just say that by the end, there is a significant amount of body horror. And I think, because I remember when it was coming out, I was thinking, oh, should this be on Screams or should it be on Ace? Because the premise is kind of science fiction on paper, but everyone was calling it a body horror movie. And I'm like, okay, that phrase is so specific that I feel quite confident this is a Screams movie. And having seen it, I agree with that. It takes a little bit of time before you get to that stuff, but even before then, there's tension and there's good performances, there's a lot of styles, it's very upbeat, and there's a lot of energy to how it's directed, especially when you get the younger version, and there's a lot of like almost music video quality to how all of her scenes are kind of cut around and all that.
Yeah, like I remember like Dennis Quaid had like a very surprising, like over the top, like pretty funny performance. Yeah, I mean, this is terrific, and there's a lot of hype going into it. Like so many people were talking about it, and then like you're saying, it's getting like Oscar buzz, which I feel like is not something that we usually hear about on this show. So yeah, sometimes it's almost like, okay, maybe, I don't know, is there too much hype? Like, is it, we're gonna have a little bit of a backlash, but I think it absolutely lives up to it. Like great performances, really engaging characters, like are so on board with following those characters to the end, and it's like a really great unique premise. And then obviously, like you said, there's lots of like themes and stuff that it has to say about women dealing with these kind of beauty standards, and the whatever, working in Hollywood and all this crap.
It was the way you paused after you just said, it's just saying a lot of things about women, and then there was a pause, and I went, well, that's it? That's all you're saying? But yeah, it's dealing with standards, it's dealing with, objectification, and also how it makes people feel, how it makes women feel about, like, what they're supposed to live up to, and how, like, worthless they might feel when they're past a certain age, or if they don't feel beautiful enough for this reason or that reason. Like, it's definitely get into a lot of that, as well as some other stuff.
And it's so wild that this was like such like a big popular movie, because it goes in like such crazy places at the end.
Oh yeah,
that it, because as horror fans, like, we're used to some of the more bonkers stuff that happens in it, but it's just funny thinking of, like, the normie older people or whatever, they're like, oh, like, I've heard this is getting some buzz, maybe I should check it out, and then, like, watching that final act and stuff. But I mean, I guess kudos to the movie though for and being like having so much of that like kind of wild body horror and still being like such a big mainstream success.
Yeah. No, it goes places for sure. Yeah, recommended. That's The Substance at number 4. Number 3 is Terrifier 3. Art the Clown's latest adventure, his Christmas adventure, you might say. Yeah, I mean, obviously, like, I enjoyed Terrifier 1. Bit rough around the edges, but really liked how much of a nasty little slasher movie it was. And then Terrifier 2 came along, and it was just this, like, okay, everything's better, everything's bigger in its ideas. It's still a low-budget film with a gritty feel to it, but it introduced, like, a badass, female lead, this hero to go up against Art the Clown. Art the Clown's still entertaining as all hell, but it also hinted at all this cool lore. And Terrifier 3 takes all this stuff, continues the story of that hero, continues the expansion of the lore in some interesting ways that weren't all expected, and it made things from Terrifier 1 suddenly make sense as if it was planned all along. Whether it was or wasn't, I don't know, but it still felt like it did. And yeah, you've got all Art's crazy antics. Ultimately, all I really want from these movies, other than like Sienna, the lead character, being a bit of a badass, is just Art interacting with people and ultimately killing them in the most spectacularly silly ways. Like, the dark sense of humor of these movies is so important to why they work. And Terrifier 2 and 3 especially are so funny. And they're funny because of how brutal he is. They're funny because of how much he enjoys doing what he's doing. And it's just, there's times in that third movie where the entire audience in the theater was laughing because Art was just being hysterical. But it never took anything away from what he's being, because this isn't like a thing like Freddy where, he started off more serious and got silly later on, so he feels like a parody. It feels like they just like, no. Like, by the second movie, they sort of understood what they had with Art the Clown. And by the third movie, it's like we were able to like really capitalize on that in a lot of big ways. So, no, I love Terrifier 3. It's great.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because I'm usually not as big into the movies that are like, trying to shock you, or, like they have a sense that they're, just trying to like go so far over the top or over the line, but I don't know, it just works in these movies. And I don't know if, like, when I was watching the first one, if I was like fully on board right away, but then at some point it just kind of clicks that it's like, okay, like, I don't know, whatever this person's doing, I guess it's just working. And then yeah, the first one's like good enough, but like you said, the second one just really adds all this lore, and has like a badass final girl, and it's like, oh, it's not just a one-trick pony where it's like, oh, we're gonna show you over the top gore or whatever. It actually like has a lot of like really interesting ideas. So yeah, I love Terrifier 2, and then this is just really just keeping up the trend and just keeping that same quality going and adding more lore. If I had one complaint about the movie, it's that it weirdly rushes over some things like towards the last act, and I'm kind of curious.
Towards the end, there's like a weird jump into the third act where it feels like some stuff get cut out. Even though they claim that it wasn't the case. Like that's not where like there is like a long stuff that was cut, but it wasn't from there, which is surprising to me. But that would be the biggest complaint. If you're only ding Terrifier 3, it would be for that structural problem where some of the narrative feels missing towards the end.
And it's just, I only bring it up because it's just so odd, because everything else on the movie seems like so precise, like, you know, in terms of like the story and the lore and stuff that they're presenting, that it just feels like a weird jump that they end up making. But I mean, again, it's a small, you know, hiccup in, you know, what is a very entertaining movie. And again, like the, you know, Christmas setting just adds a lot of fun elements to it. And it's always like, it's a fun movie to root for too, just knowing that, you know, this seems like it was just like a passion project from, you know, this guy that just ended up really like taking off. So it's just it's a kind of like a cool story itself of seeing it like, you know, get so big and stuff. But yeah, looking forward to Terrifier 4, which I wonder, I don't know if that's like set I don't know if that's like next year or something, but whenever that comes out, that'll be a fun one.
Yeah, I don't know what the setting of the movie is, but they're saying it's the end of our story, but we'll see if that sticks, because it's not the first time we've heard that the fourth entry is the final chapter, only for a new beginning to come along soon after. But no, love Terrifier 3. It's like the Christmas setting adds so much, and I love the expansion to the lore. I think Terrifier 2 is just a little bit more special because it was so impressive how Terrifier 2 improved upon the first, whereas 3 arguably is just consistent with that one ding towards the end, and then all the different flavors make it feel fresh still, but 2 doesn't have that problem. Although 2 is like 2 hours and 20 minutes long, which for a slasher movie is pretty insane. So, you know, take your things where you can.
I would say this is like maybe the only franchise where the longer the movies are, the more excited I get.
I love it.
Anything else you tell me, like it's 2.5 hours, and I'm like, oh god, I don't know if I want to see that in theaters. Like this, it's like, yeah, bring it on. Like I'm, you know, if the next one's like 3 hours, it's like, yes, let's go.
You know what? Give the next one the Return of the King extended edition treatment. Give me the 4.5 hour cut of Terrifier 4. I'm for it. But anyway, yeah, that's Terrifier 3 at number 3. Still love it dearly. Number 2 is In a Violent Nature. So we're still sticking with slashers here for this one, and this is a very unique premise, and it's kind of another fresh lick of paint, whereas Terrifier is this sort of really cool homage to 80s slasher movies that kind of makes this new, fresh, like horror icon, and arguably art is up there with a lot of those big 80s like horror characters now. In a Violent Nature basically takes Friday the 13th, and I don't think it's anything like that's clearly what the main inspiration is Friday the 13th. And you've got a very Jason Voorhees-esque character being a slasher villain. And I can't even remember his name, which tells you that that's maybe the weakest part about him, is that his name and lore are completely, like, unimportant and aren't memorable in any way. But how this movie is made is a bit gimmicky, sure, but it makes it super compelling, especially if you're someone who likes slasher movies and has watched a lot of them, because this movie shoots the slasher movie from the perspective of the killer. It's not a POV movie. It's not like Maniac 2012. But it's all the scenes follow the killer, right? We follow like over his shoulder, effectively, almost like a video game, of him stalking people, of how he gets from place to place, how he does different things. A lot of it's very quiet because the killer doesn't talk, and you only get these glimpses of who the group of like teens or college age students are that are in town to camp and that kind of thing, and you get little teases here or there of who's who and like what they're about, and it also shows you how the killer pulls some things off, where like how he like tricks them in some points to like, you know, think there's something over there but there's not, or whatever, and on top of all that, there's actually just several great kills, which is obviously very important for a slasher movie. And some of them are surprising, some of them aren't. There's one in particular in the middle that goes really way over the top, almost in an Art the Clown-esque way, except Art the Clown doesn't have super strength the way that Jason and this guy does. So this is still a bit more unique to that type of character. But no, this was the sort of thing where like I only vaguely knew what it was when I started watching it, and then like a couple of minutes in when I realized, oh, that's what this movie's going to be, I got kind of excited because I'm like, oh, this is a fresh take on this idea of like following the slasher like he's the main character. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think so much about this is just the uniqueness of it. Like, I have a few issues like here and there with it, but I really applaud like them doing something different and just having like a very fresh take on like I mean how long of like slashers and how many like Jason ripoffs and stuff have we seen, and it's it's very noteworthy to get something that's like doing something like very new and unique with it, which if it was just like the gimmick alone it might not be enough to put it over the top, but like you said, like there's some just really like great kills, like I mean it has violent in the title, like it definitely doesn't shy away from the violence and the gore and stuff when it gets there. So I don't know, I like it wasn't my favorite like overall, but like again I'm just like really enamored with what they were doing with it is really cool.
It felt so fresh. It was like appealing to me in such a like visceral level as someone who likes slasher movies but also likes art house movies. I'm like, this is like an art house slasher movie, as weird as that sounds. It's kind of what it is. So I was super into it, and like they announced it before I think I saw it, because whenever we got to it is when we got to it. But I remember after I watched it being like, I'm really glad they already announced a sequel to this, because I think there's like so much potential and like ways they could play with this like formula of how they shot this, and maybe they'll shake it up a little bit for the sequel. And like it's like one of the things that I remember most about the movie is just the almost rhythmic like footsteps of the killer walking through like the forest, and you just see the crunch under the feet, and it's just like this constant thing that's always there because he's always walking. And it's just it became this almost percussion for the movie, because there's no score in the film, there's no music other than one or two diegetic pieces. So
it's kind of funny because like I like, not to be insulting, like, but like I could kind of see this as like being a movie like you could like put on while you're falling asleep. Like, not that it would not that it makes you fall asleep, but there is like a weird calming likeness to it. Even though
it's cozy, like it's a cozy slasher movie.
Which like it's weird to say because it is a very violent slasher like when it gets to those parts, but then when it's not doing that, it's like like you said, it's very cozy. The crunching of the leaves, the the birds and stuff, like all the noises like outside, just I don't know, it does make it very like calming and natural and stuff. So
yeah. Also, it's 4:3, which is very art house in 2025 or 2024 in this case. So no, In a Violent Nature is number 2, and that leaves
another. No, sorry, just another foreign movie as well. So that's nice to see some foreignness on the list.
What is this, Canadian or something?
It is Canadian, yeah.
You consider Canadian films foreign?
Let me check. Do I live in Canada? No, so yes.
For the record, I do not. Okay. Right. Does that mean you consider Oddity a foreign film?
Let's see. Do I live in Ireland? No, so yes.
Dear. Typically, if it comes from a country where the main language is English, I'm like, no, it's all part of the English speaking world.
I'm being a little cheeky. All right?
Yeah.
So. Especially
since it's really easy to not notice that something's Canadian, because Canadians usually just so like Americans, frankly.
I mean, that's fine. That's probably insulting to Canadians, but
Oh yeah, it's definitely more insulting to Canadians than it is to Americans. That's fair. The only time it's really obvious to me that it's a Canadian is when they're really like playing up their boots and like there's a big maple leaf behind them or something. Like other than that, they have to tell me they're Canadian. All right, I don't know. All right, that just leaves number one, which we decide fairly easily, to be honest. Like I think Tim was sitting hoping that he could get this to number one, and then I suggested it first, and then the little relief in his eyes that fluttered is So number one is Exuma, which is a Korean film that came out early half of 2024 and was such a pleasant surprise. Not just because it was good, but I was saying this when we were going over like what to pick, is that it's even in its own right surprising as it plays out, because the first half of the movie is good, but if it was just the first half, like if the whole movie was just the first half of the movie extended to the whole time, it wouldn't be number one. It might not even make the top 10. Like it was decent, solid. But this movie like reveals what it's actually about like after the halfway mark, and everything from that point on is like so fun and like different and fantastic, with just visuals that I wasn't expecting, a type of specific supernatural focus that I didn't see coming based on what the first movie, because the first movie was like, oh, someone has died but they've got their bodies cursed, we have to do some kind of weird funeral exorcism to take care of it. And that's what the movie's about for a good stretch. But then it starts like revealing and unraveling things. And it just like, I got so pumped with each turn this movie took, where I'm like, this is just getting better. This is getting better. And movies don't usually do it. Movies usually either I know 15 minutes in if I like this or I don't. It's very rare that a movie keeps reinventing itself in a way that I'm like, oh, this is better now. This is better now. Because normally if a movie reinvents itself, I'm like, oh, I kind of liked what it was before. This just keeps getting better.
Yeah, no, I was so pleasantly surprised with this movie. And like we're kind of saying in the, discussion episode where, it wasn't one that I feel like was getting a ton of hype. Like I heard some people recommend it, but it's not like they were playing it up like, oh, this is the best movie of the year, you have to check it out. But it was just so like goddamn cool. Like again, I don't want to give specific plot points away, but there's like, maybe about halfway ish through the movie or something where they discover a thing that like, you didn't know was there at first, and it's just like, oh, what is this? And then like you're saying, like it just, you find out like more and more revelations and stuff as it goes, and it just ends up being like cooler and cooler. Which I mean, it's just like a movie that made me happy, and like I again, it was just something that I got like super sucked up in, and then just like, I was just thinking about it like for so long after I watched it, like, man, it was that thing was cool, and man, like that little bit was like neat, and there's so many cool visuals, and
and also by the end of the movie, I felt like I was really rooting for the team of characters that were in it. Like I was kind of like into the team in a way that I didn't think I saw coming early on in the movie either.
And like you're kind of saying, like it starts off seeming like it might just be kind of like a typical exorcism kind of movie, which nothing wrong with that. If it's done well, like that could be cool, but it does so much more with it that I was just super impressed with it. And I'm really glad that we both came at this with number one, because one, I think it deserves it, but also it might not be a movie that like everyone has seen, but everything on the list I think is very good. But I mean, especially if you haven't seen this, I would say like check it out right now, because I think it's just such a great experience. It's it definitely won't disappoint.
Yeah, it feels right for a number of reasons. One, it's good enough. One, it was so surprising, and also we just like the idea of like giving this the crown, because it's like, hey, everyone who likes horror movies should go see this. It's different, and you might have missed it. It wasn't talked about like The Substance was or Longlegs was, this deserves some more attention. It's our number one of the year. So that is Exuma, our top horror movie of 2024. So that is the top 10 of the year. There was a couple of honorable mentions that almost made the list. I almost, Cuckoo was almost there. I liked that quite a bit, but Tim hated it, so it kind of just fell off the list. The First Omen was obviously considered, and like that and Immaculate. We even joked that we might just give that and Immaculate the same slot, but ultimately we said, okay, which one's better, and we'll decide from there. But that was kind of the ones that were close, and that was about it really, because we weren't that particularly hot on Quiet Place Day One.
Yeah.
We weren't particularly hot on a couple of things. Not to spoil the next little bonus list we're about to give you, we also decided the worst 5 horror movies of the year, and we'll reveal that now. Number 5 is a spicy one. We had a couple of choices for number 5 because the first 4 were pretty easy. Well, the reason for me because I remembered what we did. Tim was like struggling to remember anything, but ultimately we went with
maybe they're like so bad I just blocked them out.
Oh, very possibly, but we went with the spicier take because we thought it'd be a funnier pick for the list, even though I think arguably there's a couple that we still dislike more or think are worse movies. But number 5 on the worst horror movies of 2024 is Abigail.
Yeah, I don't know. One of the reasons, again, like you're saying, that it's a little spicy is because this does seem to be one that people tend to like a bit more. But
they love it. They're gagging for more Abigail.
Yeah, I just don't get it. Like, I don't know, the humor for me just like doesn't work. Like, so much of it feels like generic and predictable, and I don't know. It's just I don't see the love for it. I thought it was pretty dull at parts. The story was kind of stupid. Like, maybe there's like a few jokes here and there that I was like, all right, that's not bad. But I mean, for the most part, like, not a lot of it was really hitting for me.
Yeah, just cartoony CG took me out of some of the moments that are supposed to be fun as well. So that's a problem for me. Tonally, it feels like, I mean, I have no problem with a horror comedy or something that's a bit lighter. That's fine. But it feels like a later stage MCU horror movie is the way I would describe it. And it's kind of how I felt about Ready Player One as well. I didn't like that movie that much, and the internet loves that one. Like, people are fans of these movies, and I just don't think that I like Radio Silence that much as directors. And obviously, I feel a bit more positive on the Scream movies, particularly 6, but I think that's more because they're in the confines of a franchise that has some rules, and they're not just doing whatever they want. So yeah, it's a bit spicy. It's a spicy meatball, but we thought it'd be funny to put this at 5, even though there's 1 or 2 that we could have put instead.
Yeah, at least this one is like it. I feel a bit more passionate about it. It makes me more mad versus some other ones we talked about there. Like, well, that's just kind of forgettable,
Well, it was funny because we did that commentary during October. Or was it later? I can't remember. We did the Cabin in the Woods commentary as like a sort of one-off thing, and there was a part of that movie that made us just go, this 5 seconds was much better than all of that, Abigail. I was about to say Annabelle there, it's also true. I mean, anything in that movie is better than the entirety of Annabelle, but that's another thing. So that's Abigail at number 5. Number 4 is Taro, which is a Sony Pictures movie, which is probably one of the few things you need to hear, honestly. But just generic supernatural stuff, dumb rules that were inconsistent, about how each of the kids are hunted. I think by the end I was saying that it was like a really crappy, like soulless Final Destination where, because of these tarot cards and they're all getting their readings, death is coming for them in these different ways. But the scenes aren't fun like a Final Destination movie. They're just generic, and I remember the third act just completely like, well, all of a sudden the ghost can't find someone who's hiding inside a box. Like, it feels wildly inconsistent in how any of it works. This was shit. I hated it.
Yeah, there's like definitely a lot of weird logic with the movie where, it just never felt like consistent between kills and stuff, and it's weird. I don't know. I mean, I guess with like the creative people involved, like it probably never would have been, you know, that good. But I don't know. There might be like some crumbs of ideas there, or like I don't know, maybe the idea of like a bunch of different like, you know, killer freaks based on the tarot like could be cool, but it's not really doing anything in this movie. And then it's all like, you know, again trying to I remember like the, you know, one like comedic character that was like so annoying and not funny. Yeah, I think the most credit I can give it is I think there's a few parts where it's like so dumb I was kind of laughing at it, but yeah, I mean not enough to like actually like it as a, you know, bad movie or whatever.
Nah,
but
not even close. Yeah. So that's Tarot at number 4. Number 3 is Baghead, which, like, I feel like we went in with a little bit of optimism for some reason, and I don't know why, but this was just a tedious one to sit through, to be honest.
I think this was one that maybe had some slight buzz about it. Like, I mean, maybe, you know, it's not like people were shouting like, "Oh, you must see it," but I feel like, you know, it was at least something like where we heard people mentioning the title of it. You know, like it, which is weird because this definitely seems like one of those things that should just go straight to streaming and no one ever watches or talks about because it's just so like dumb, and the horror parts of it are like so generic, and the performances are not great, and it's not shot well. Yeah, I mean,
all right, Tim, hold back.
Yeah, I mean, I forgot about this movie until you mentioned it, and now that it's like flooding back to me, and I'm getting angry about it. There's like, I guess like the premise is kind of interesting, but I don't know, the characters are not likable. It doesn't go any place like interesting that you'd want it to, and there's like inconsistent rules. So yeah, just nothing really worth recommending about this one.
No. I mean, I remember not much about it, to be honest, but the basic premise of this daughter comes to Germany because her dad was running this pub, and in the basement there was a supernatural lady with a bag over her head that comes out of the hole in the wall and has to be taken care of. But if you break the rules, bad things happen, or that like
if you bring it an item to eat, it'll like conjure.
I forgot about this.
Yeah, it'll like, yeah, you bring an item from a dead person and it'll eat it, and then like you can speak to that
That's right.
dead person, which I don't know, the absurdity and weirdness of it should be like something I like, but again, it all comes down to execution, and it's just not executed well or interestingly at all.
Yeah, bland script, and then just really generic shooting style with, you know, borderline just by the numbers supernatural stuff. Like all these crappy supernatural movies feel the goddamn same. All right, that's number 3. Number 2 on this shit heap is The Strangers Chapter 1.
Yeah, this is what we did like somewhat, you know, recently.
It's like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, I'm already like forgetting things about it, but I guess like the thing that's most frustrating about this is that it's like so unnecessary, because I was actually kind of intrigued when they announced that they're doing like a new trilogy from what's his face,
Renny Harlin.
Yeah, because I mean, not like he's like my favorite filmmaker, but I do think, you know, he's done stuff that I've enjoyed, and at least it seemed like that would be interesting if he has a take on it. But then you watch this and it's just like, oh, there's no take at all. They're just redoing the first movie in a much, much worse fashion. And I already didn't really like the first movie that much. So you're already taking something I don't like and doing a much, much crappier version. And like the characters were so goddamn uncharismatic. Like there's no chemistry between them.
No.
And I remember getting frustrated when like the main guy would try to crack jokes and it was just like, oh, like you cannot tell a joke. This is like weirdly bad. And then yeah, trying to do like memorable stuff from the first movie just felt so flat because you just are not doing it well. And then I don't know. I'm surprised that like the second one is even going to be released. It's it's strange.
I mean, I'll give you some good news, Tim.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you some good news. Strangers Chapter 2, during the review for the first one, there was a concern that the runtime for the second one was listed as 2 hours and 40 minutes. Delighted to say that has since changed, and it is now being billed as 97 minutes, which is a lot more reasonable.
Okay.
Still not excited about seeing it, of course, but it's definitely a lot more on the reasonable side. Everything it tries to do from the original, it falls flat on. The characters, like you say, are bland, no charisma, no chemistry. They're like actively annoying to watch. Because of the premise of it being one couple that are being chased, there's like no room for a proper body count, so you can't even enjoy it in a slasher movie term. There's large stretches where it just feels like you're waiting for things to happen. And on top of it all, like you said, like surely there was an idea. Like, why would you greenlight a trilogy if there wasn't some grand idea for it? And we're getting into a second movie soon, and like honestly, it's like, okay, this has to be different by the nature that it's gone into new stuff, but the first movie literally goes to a to be continued screen, and there's nothing cliffhangery or like exciting before the to be continued. It just suddenly says, instead of just going straight to the credits, it goes to be continued, and I'm like, what are we continuing exactly? I mean, and really, instantly, it's like, oh, a survivor's going to be stalked by the killers more. Okay. So what you're saying is you've taken the idea and you've stretched it over seemingly 3 movies. Unless the second and third movies do some wild things, and maybe they do. Maybe all the interesting ideas are in part 2 and 3. But the first movie is like, we debated if it should be number 1. Like, we actually had to sit and think about it. It wasn't like this is definitely number 2. There was a discussion to be had here, and it ultimately landed at number 2. But I want to make it clear that number 1 and 2 here are by far the worst 2. Like, there's a bit of a gap between 2 and 3. So, take that as you will. That's number 2. The Strangers Chapter 1. Which leaves number 1. The worst movie, or the worst horror movie, I should say, of 2024. Maybe the worst movie of 2024 as well. I'd have to think about it. And that is Imaginary, which is ticking all the boxes of things that I hate. It is a generic, supernatural, there's something in the house, some spirit or something type movie. It's got a bullshit twist, which isn't even necessarily a bad idea for a twist, but the execution's so bad that you just don't care. But on top of all the usual supernatural things and the plot doing stupid stuff that I do not like, and just a lack of like caring about the characters, on top of all this, some scenes in the movie are just so dark that you can't actually really see what's happening. And this was something that happened to me watching it in HDR. It happened to you watching it in like normal HD. It's legitimately something that's happened in multiple places and formats. So the movie just looks like that. It's not like one of us just had like a setup that was being unkind to it. No, it just is incompetent. And it does the fake out like twists like 5 times towards the end of the movie. It's like, oh no, this is just a dream and the things are still happening. Like, it does that repeatedly. And there's some bad acting as well. The old lady in particular really ticked me off. But yeah, terrible stuff.
Yeah, there's nothing I guess like uniquely bad about it, like, you know, with Strangers Chapter 1, but like it is just really hammering home like everything that you dislike about, you know, these shitty supernatural like studio, you know, Hollywood horror movies. And honestly, that there might not be a director that I dread, you know, like having to watch more than Jeff Wadlow. Like, you know,
Jeff.
There's like
in my head I was thinking Fred Wadlow, but no, it's Jeff. You're right.
Yeah, like, like I don't know. There's plenty of other directors that like I don't like, that I'm like, I don't want to watch something from this person. But like he might be the one that is like the most like, oh God, please tell me I don't have to see this.
Oh God, what if we
And how does he keep getting movies made? I don't know.
Maybe this already happened. Maybe I've already crossed the streams. But what if we get a movie directed by Jeff Wadlow and written by Gary Dauberman?
God, I don't even want to think about it.
Two of the most blandest, like terrible movie makers currently working in horrordom are those two names.
I forget which one what it was, but like I bought like a comic book. I think it was just earlier today, and they just had like a ton of pull quotes on it, and like one of the first ones like was from Gary Dauberman. I'm like get out of here! Like I don't ever want to see your name on anything ever. Man, oh, you know what? Shit. All right, can I give an honorable mention?
Sure.
For worst of,
if you like, Tim, yes, on you go.
All right, because we were talking, if you listen to the bonus episode where we talk about the breakdown and how we came to these decisions, and we kind of mentioned that I was having trouble thinking of stuff, mainly because I didn't do a thorough research, and like when I was looking stuff up, I guess not everything was really mentioned, but it completely slipped my mind because one, we didn't actually do it on the show, but since you brought up Gary Dauberman, I would have to say like Salem's Lot was one of my most hated movies of the year. Again, it's another one of those cases where I would definitely say there's things that are worse than it, but since he is playing in an arena that I love, which is Stephen King, and especially one of his like more classic titles, like Salem's Lot is just a fantastic book, and that movie was such like god awful shit. I mean, we'll probably do it on the show at one point, just for the fact that
we already hit the top 10 at 2024, so it's irrelevant now, Tim.
Well, I mean, it's an IP that I'm sure I don't know if they'll go back to it at some point. Maybe there'll be a reason to do it, or maybe
Stephen King month will happen or something.
yeah, maybe we'll have like a vote for like King stuff we haven't done or something. But I mean, I'll not look forward to watching it again, but I'll absolutely look forward to ripping it to shreds in a review. But yeah, that was one that just annoyed me so goddamn much.
Sure, yeah, I get it. But that about does it then. Yeah, Imagineering's terrible. It's the worst horror movie of the year. Just to wrap that up. But yeah, so I'll just recap the top 10 quickly and say them in succession. Number 10 was Maxine, 9 was Immaculate, 8 is Heretic, 7 Nosferatu, 6 Oddity, 5 Longlegs, 4 The Substance, 3 Terrifier 3, 2 In a Violent Nature, and number 1 Exuma. So that is the top 10 horror movies of 2024 from Streams After Midnight. Hopefully you either you agree, you disagree, comment and all that below and let us know. Maybe you found a couple of recommendations that you've not seen in there, which is ideally what this is hopefully doing for a few of these movies, is giving that a chance to more eyes to fall on them. But we did review all 10 of those as well, and all 5 of the other list as well, for the record. So you can find all of our in-depth reviews of all those if you want to go do that too. But yeah, thank you for joining us. You can support the show over at Patreon or via YouTube membership and get bonus segments that we do for most episodes now. For this in particular, you get the discussion of making the list as an extra feature. So you go check out that. You get bonuses for the other shows we do here, such as the Atomic Cinema Experiment and Collector's Cut, the other movie podcasts. But that is pretty much it. I will put us out of our misery here, because me and Tim have been recording for a bit. So thank you very much for joining. We do appreciate it. We'll see you next week for a regular episode, a horror movie review. It may be I Know What You Did Last Summer, but I don't have it up in front of me. But I think that might be what's supposed to be next week. So thank you for joining. We do appreciate it. Keep watching scary movies, and we will see you next time.